Hello fellow humans and welcome to my channel. I recently moved into a new flat and right now most of my walls look a lot like this. Which is depressing and it needs fixing. My name is Arwen and today I'll show you how I turned a sad blank page into something slightly more interesting, I hope. Like most of my projects, this one started with a good old drawing. The design consists of multiple layers, so I started with the most delicate one and worked my way down to the base layer from there. Because I wanted the design to be perfectly symmetrical and also because I am lazy, I only drew one half. Once the pencil drawing sort of resembled what I was going for, I got out my fine liners. Because when you want to turn a drawing into a vector file, you get the best results if you trace the outline of your artwork. So I needed to create a solid design I could trace. Next, I imported the image into GIMP. I actually prefer GIMP over Photoshop for this because it works a lot better with layer transparency. Thus began the joyous task of cleaning up the design so I wouldn't have a gazillion stray nodes in the SVG file. It's vital to do this before mirroring the design, so you don't have to do it twice. Ask me how I know. I do realise that I could have saved myself a lot of trouble if I'd simply drawn this digitally in the first place, but unfortunately graphic tablets just don't really work for me, so paper and extra work it is. Next, I moved the file over to Inkscape, which is my go-to program for all things SVG. I used the trace bitmap function to convert the drawing into an SVG file, and as you can see, I still ended up with a ton of stray nodes. So if graphic tablets work for you, do yourself a favour and just design the whole thing digitally. It helps. I repeated this process 2 more times for each layer, and then I started working on the engraving, which I drew over the SVG. Sadly, that meant that I then had to manually erase all the bits that were part of the cut file. Remember what I said about the convenience of graphic tablets? I wasn't joking. An eternity later, I was finally able to combine and color code all of the individual pieces. I went with purple for the engraving and black for the cut lines. I use Lightburn, which allows me to create my own profiles, so this is really just a personal choice. Then came the fun part. I opted for HDF board for this project rather than plywood because, well, it is much cheaper and I'm going to paint it anyway. The design is quite intricate and combines both cutting and engraving, so even with my 50-watt machine, this took quite some time. But then it was time to get my hands dirty. I first applied a black base coat to really bring out the engraving, and after that I went full paint on the portrait. I built a paint layer starting with a metallic bronze colour, and as you can see the black face coat really pays off. The scales are looking very nice and very three-dimensional. After that I added a grungy metallic red to give it a kind of a fiery look, and because it was still looking somewhat flat I added some gold highlights as well. But this was still nowhere near as dragony and intense as I wanted. So at first I tried painting the eyes a golden colour, but that still didn't look quite right. So I applied some gold leaf adhesive to the pupils, and to some of the scales as well. But what I had in mind wouldn't work too well with the light eyes, so I painted them black again because it is okay to change your mind, people. Then it was time to let the magic happen. This is quite possibly my favourite part of the process. I used chameleon shift flakes to add a metallic effect to the scales and part of the eyes. This particular shade shifts between hues of green, orange, purple and gold, which is quite a broad range. It went surprisingly well with the red and bronze paint, which I wasn't too sure about at first. I also added some more orange, red and gold flakes to different parts of the head just to add a little more depth and variety. I applied a layer of UV resin to the pupils for a more three-dimensional effect. But it still didn't feel quite right. So I decided to go all in on the color shift effect. Then I moved on to the second layer, which I painted a light metallic gold colour. For the third and final layer, I went with a midnight black colour. I absolutely love this particular paint because it contains gold glitter, which creates the most magical effect. I coated each layer with waterproof glossy varnish, which not only protects the paint, it also makes the dragon head easy to clean, which should never be underestimated. I used wood glue to stick the individual layers together and clamps to keep everything in place. I then let the whole thing dry for about an hour. For the centerpiece, I made a color-shift resin gemstone. I filled about 3/4 of the mold with UV resin and cured it for about 50 seconds, at which point it's solid but still sticky enough for the chameleon flakes to stick to it very nicely. I then sealed the flakes with another layer of resin and put it back in the oven, so to speak. It already looked pretty neat straight out of the mold. However, what really makes the colours pop is if you paint the rear side black. Do you see those beautiful shades of pink, purple, gold, orange, green and blue? Absolutely magical. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do. If you would like to make your own, I am selling this design in my brand new digital Etsy shop, and if you would like to support my channel but don't have a laser cutter, please consider checking out my other Etsy shop where I sell all kinds of shiny objects. I'll put the links in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have the most wonderful day. I'll hopefully see you next time.